and welcome to the National Rowing Championships 2022. Max, where are we?
We are up in North Cowichan on Vancouver Island at Quamichan Lake. I'm here with Andrea Prosk, one of my co-hosts for today. Andrea is an Olympic gold medalist in the women's 8 from this past 2021 Tokyo Olympic Games. Andrea also is a national champion in the women's single. Andrea, what year was that?
2016.
2016, great year. Competing in Burnaby, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. But not in Burnaby today. Today we're in North Cowichan, and I'm here with, let's see if I can remember all of your accolades, okay? 2-time Olympian, 4-time national champion, and Pan Am gold medalist, Max Latimer. Max, what does it feel like to be back in Quamichan? You've done a lot of racing here as well?
A lot of racing and a lot of training. I've had some really great memories training and racing on this lake. I'm super excited for the competition that we have coming up in the B and A finals this afternoon.
Absolutely, and you might be able to pick up those horns at the finish line. We're right here at the finish line. We've got the best view in the house of watching the athletes come down. We'll be joining you for the B finals and the A finals, which we're really exciting about. There's some great crews here today.
Yes, a lot of former teammates of ours and some new faces that we're looking forward to sharing.
Yeah, so join us later. We're looking forward to taking you along on the ride. Hi there, and welcome to the 2022 National Championships. We are situated right here at the finish line. We've got a great view for the racing that are coming up ahead. And the wind looks like a gentle cross tail here. Max, what would you think about the conditions coming into this?
Yeah, I think it's looking pretty good here up in North Cowichan. The wind hasn't blown up. There's a nice little tailwind coming down the course. That's something that we'll try and enlighten our crowd about today, conditions being one of the main factors that rowers have to deal with when racing. As an outdoor sport, conditions are one of the variables you have to handle, and sometimes it's those that handle the conditions best that end up on top.
Absolutely. Outdoor sport, anything can happen. I mean, Max, I'm sure you have some great stories about rough water conditions that you've raced in. I remember once or twice wondering if I was going to make it right side up to the finish line. But these athletes have some great conditions here, although it is cold and brisk. I think that tailwind will probably tap them down the course. But Max, a lot flatter than probably some other conditions you've raced in, eh?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's one of the reasons why the team has moved up to row here in North Cowichan at Quamichan Lake. And because of the water, the conditions that you can get. Certainly, there have been some World Championships, even some Olympic Games, where we had to race in some white capping conditions. I know there's some great images from back in 2016 from the women's single where I believe a number of boats were swamped because the waves were so big.
But wherever in the world you're joining us from, whether or not you're cheering on a loved one or you are here to watch a teammate race, I think that we are bringing this to you in a way that we haven't before. We've got some drone footage here. We've got 2 chase boats, and it looks like the first race is underway. No. I might be mistaken on that. For those of you joining in, rowing, pretty straightforward sport. Get from point A to point B as fast as you can. And point A and point B are 2 kilometers apart. You'll see us perhaps reference as we come through 500-meter marks. That's how we're breaking up the race today. And right towards the finish line, watch for those yellow buoys. They'll be turning red, and that signals to the athletes that they have 250 meters left.
A lot of times when you're heading into the last 500 meters, all you're looking for is for the buoys to change from yellow to red. And you know you've got about 30 strokes left. It's your hardest 30 strokes of the race. It's getting that bow to the finish line until you hear that sound of the horn.
Yeah, blood pumping in your brain, in your legs, and your chest is probably looking to explode. So our job today is to bring you along with the athletes and hopefully do our best to describe a little bit of what they're going through. And even though Max and I aren't racing right now, we remember that pain really like it was yesterday, eh, Max?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I'm remembering is just this fall characteristic of our National Rowing Championships. Oftentimes racing in the frigid cold. It has been in the east, it's been in the west. It's been in the west for the last few years, and so normally it means that you get a little bit warmer than it would be in Ontario, but fortunately we've got some brisk temperatures out there, so you'll see athletes rowing in long sleeves and tights. Some are brave enough to go bare skin, which we'll comment on later.
And on that image on your screen, you can see a little bow number there that helps us here. I know when I was younger, my parents would always ask for me to race in a bright pink t-shirt so they could tell us apart from each other because, everyone's wearing spandex. You're trying to wear tight-fitting clothes so that you're not going to end up, catching your hands in the loose-fitting fabric. So that bow marker, as it's called, is something that we'll be talking about here, and it helps us understand, you guys watching at home, who's in what lane.
Another thing I think we should just comment on quickly is the two different disciplines within the sport of rowing. We have sculling, which is with 2 oars, which is what you can see on your screen right now. Those would be the individuals racing in the singles event, and then later on you'll get to see sweeping, which is in the pairs event. And so sweeping is 1 oar each, 2 people in the boat, and having done both internationally, Andrea and I will be able to give our best takes on both. Andrea, do you have a favorite, by the way, sculling over sweeping?
They're so different. You know what? I love the beauty of sculling. I love how it's 1 part raw power, 1 part ballet, but there's nothing more fun than being in a fast-moving 8, I gotta say, especially where I was sitting. I was right in the middle engine room, so my job was just to provide as much power to the boat as possible and propel it as fast. Also, much faster race in an 8 than a women's double, here to tell you.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you there. As somebody that raced... okay, here we go. We're getting ready to...
Yeah, so on your screen right now, you can see the athletes getting ready. So this first race is going to be slightly different. So we are starting with the para crew. And on your screen right there, you can see Danielle Main in stroke seat with her able-bodied partner in bow. That's McKaylee Hansen. So this race is only going to be 1 minute apart. The rest of them will be on what we call centers, so 7-minute centers. Danielle Main is one of our PR 3 category para rowers, so she is visually impaired. And then after that, pardon me. You know what? Whenever something happens live, there's always some change. So pardon me, we're actually going to see Patrick Levi go down the course first. So he is what's classified as a PR2, so you can see that his legs are strapped down and he's using those big muscles on his back to get as much length as he possibly can as he heads down the 2-kilometer course.
I found the para events quite fascinating to watch. The ability to create so much power with the upper body, which is something that I'm not very well used to doing. Most of my power was created through my lower body. But it is pretty incredible to see the amount of power that someone can put into a rowing stroke using just their arms and back.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. They have to be very technically proficient in order to get as much length as they can without having the benefit of being able to break the legs. And you can see here where they're sitting up. Max, take us through what's going through your mind at the starting block.
You can see as the athletes take off out of the starting blocks that the rate is high, the power is on. It's about getting off the line as quick and clean as possible. With when you have as much energy to give as possible. Right before the start there's that bit of quiet, almost quiet nervousness that can come into a start line.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to love the start line. They're always feeling the nerves. You feel like a pot of water on boil, and you're just trying to keep yourself on simmer until that starting horn goes, and then the whole world just kind of melts away, and you know exactly what to do, because these athletes will practice starts over and over and over again in the daily training environment.
On the screen now is I believe the finishing few strokes of the C finals of the women's single.
And you can see those red buoys. We'll be calling attention to those a little bit later on as they come through the finish line. There's a crowd here cheering them on. Whether or not the cameras will pick that up or not, I'm not sure. But these athletes are paddling through the finish line or racing through the finish line to some cheers and applause from friends and family on the shores here in Artman Park in beautiful Quamichan.
Yes, and if you listen closely too, you can hear the ducks and the red-winged blackbirds also cheering along. One of the things about this beautiful lake is the nature that surrounds it. There's a beautiful bird sanctuary around the corner too.
Yeah, and guys, Max here, little known fact, knows all the birds. He knows all the birds. On the screen right there, you can see our course map there. So the start, the 1,000-meter, and the finish line, 2,000 altogether. They'll also on your screen, you'll probably see as we follow along the big yellow inflatable buoys. Those are helpful for the athletes to know when the 500-meter marks are.
So races are 2,000 meters. You'll see the breakup into quarters, 500 meters at a time. That's a lot of the ways how athletes strategize their races, is by making certain pushes at different points of the race. The 1,000-meter mark being the big reset where you have 1,000 meters done, and it's now your ability to switch on and how do you perform in the second half when you're under fatigue.
Athletes paddling in here to the starting blocks again. We've already talked about the nerves that are probably going. Some athletes race with a race plan, taped in front of them. Other of them know them, right in your head. But within that race plan, you also have to have the ability to have some flexibility because, as the race unfolds, you might have moments where you need to put in a push every now and then. You can see our coaches' launches here following along. We've got, I think it's a total of 5 cameras today, which is fantastic. You'll be able to see all the action with us.
Yeah, Andrew, you're making a great comment there. That's one of the things about small boat racing that is quite fascinating to watch, is just that the races often have tons of lead changes because crews are really strategizing when to push, how to push off their competitors, as opposed to sometimes when you're racing in the big boats, it's just fastest as you can, point A to point B, to your race plan, and doing as much best as you can to follow that race plan to a T.
So, Max, you've done about 1,000,001 races, I'm sure, if we added them all up together. Did you still feel nervous in the last race that you raced?
I think that's one of the things that I find over time you get less and less nervous because you become more and more prepared. You develop those strategies of how to keep yourself calm, what to focus on, how to keep your brain in the right zone so that you're ready to execute at your very best. You can see that these are the B final for the lightweight men's singles getting ready to go. This is the event that I raced most recently at what would have been the 2020 National Rowing Championships. Oh, no, those were canceled. It was been 2019 World National Rowing Championships. So I believe the defending champion in this event is my little brother, Aaron. We had a good head-to-head in the 2019 National Rowing Championships in Burnaby Lake.
And as athletes line up here, maybe you could tell us who we're going to be watching in this men's lightweight singles.
Yeah, so on the screen closest to us is James Gamil from the Victoria City Rowing Club. In lane 2, you have Connor Dodds from the Saskatchewan Rowing Association. Lane 3, you have James Rourke from Georgian Bay Rowing Club. And lane 4, you have Trish Chang from Victoria City Rowing Club. Or Isaiah, I believe. Sorry.
And what's on the line here in the B final for these athletes? What kind of thoughts are going through their head, do you think?
Well, these athletes would have raced a time trial for seeding, and then they would have had a semifinal to get to this place. And so we can see these are all U23 athletes, so athletes that are racing in university. Some will have raced at the CURC Rowing Championships this past weekend in St. Catharines for their universities. And so these athletes are, the lightweight single is a very competitive event, and it will be a lot of fun to watch these athletes come down the course.
And watching athletes come down the course, here comes Patrick Levi here. Not entirely sure where he is. We'll wait to see where the marker is, but you can imagine how much pain it must be. He's well into the race here. You're pushing to get the most out of you, and when you're under fatigue, your body likes to find accuracies. So he'll be wanting to push through that and stay strong all the way to the finish. But they are off in the men's single final B. And another great shot there. So this is an exhibition race of the para women's double there. We have an able-bodied athlete in the bow helping our visually impaired athlete in stroke seat, but she's still going to get some valuable, exhibition or not, some valuable racing experience out of this. You get to practice as an athlete the nerves. You get to practice even things like what you eat before a race. You get to practice that pain as the lactic acid builds up in your legs. What other things will be going through your mind here, Max?
Certainly listening to their what their race plan would have been. All these athletes would have gone over their race plan with their coaches, It's one of the things you practice in training, you talk about on land and on water, what you're going to feel in coming onto that last 500 meters, how you're going to mentally deal with it, and then perform and keep the boat moving at your best.
And these athletes in the PR competition also have gone off on a stagger, so we should see these boats start to come together, maybe even a little bit of overlap as they start charging towards the final 250 meters there. So what the athletes are doing, which is a great shot on the screen there, is they're pushing with their legs first, then you open with the body, and then your arms finish right at the end. One of the most common comments that we get as rowers is, oh wow, your arms must be so strong, but that's not really the case, is it, Max?
No, definitely. The power comes from the big muscle groups in your body, the legs, the glutes, and the muscles through your core and trunk. And so it's your ability to produce power in the lower legs and then transfer it into the blade through the water. So you can see these two boats are coming together off that stagger that Andrea talked about. They're in the last 250 meters in the red buoys. There's a great overhead shot of the double coming up on the single.
Oh, that red buoys, man, I remember that well. So right now, the athletes would have taken a peek out to their side, steer into the middle of the lane, and know that there's nothing left. It's going to be over soon. It's time to put the knees down. One of the terms we'll use is stroke rate. That's how many times they're taking a stroke per minute. Quite often, in this final 250, you'll see the athletes bring the rate up as much as they possibly can and try and finish with nothing left in the tank as they charge towards the finish line here.
Yeah, keeping the boat straight is definitely one of the skills that you pick up while racing. Rowing in the lanes is a skill that a lot of athletes don't get to practice a lot because they row on bodies of water without buoy lines. So you can see these crews are coming into the last 100 meters here. That final push for the line. Keep an eye, listen for the horn. That's the sound that the bows have crossed the finish line.
Placing the blades in the water, legs pushing down, trying to accelerate those handles towards the body as they come through. Does the double get the single? Oh, just by slimmest of margins. What a fun side-by-side opportunity those athletes got, even though it was a time trial style, and a little high five to each other there, and the women's double, well done.
That brings back great memories of all these different staggered races we do with the national team. You can row in doubles racing fours, fours racing eights, singles racing doubles. Just use the staggers off the start line to hopefully have the crews come together in the last 500 meters, and they get to race head to head and see who crosses the line first and do as well comparatively.
Absolutely. And although we are racing on 7-minute centers, so we won't have the opportunity to watch every single race go off the starting blocks, we're going to be bringing you the finishes of all of the races. So as we wait for those times to pop up on the screen, hopefully we'll get those up there. We will probably be rejoining the lightweight men's singles as they charge towards the last half of the race.
Yeah, definitely looking forward for these times to come through, but also to catch back up with the racing with the lightweight singles.
Sounds like the ducks are excited too. And you can see there the umpire just had a white flag up. You might see that in other races as well. That's just to indicate that everything is A-OK. Everyone crossed the finish line and that the course and finish line is clear.
So here you can see in the lead we have James Rourke from Georgian Bay.
So that little bit of almost
Sorry,
overlap.
That's Connor Dodds from Saskatchewan Rowing Association.
But right next to him is James Rourke, and you can see there that he's trying to close that gap there. Quite a lot of distance on the other two boats. So what type of thoughts are going through your head when you are sitting in front there, Max?
Certainly it's about being patient. Connor will have pushed really hard to get off the line clean, to get that lead. But oftentimes, especially in lightweight rowing, you won't get much of a lead. You can't fully relax. It's about how do you stay calm, how do you keep your boat moving, and keep ahead of any sort of moves that might come from behind. One of the things about rowing that you get to see, or you get to have the advantage of when you're in the lead, is you get to see your competitors. You can see them coming at you, see them making the move.
And lightweight rowers are certainly the example, in my opinion, of good technical sculling because they don't have the advantage of having the big raw strength of being able to be as heavy or as strong as you want. Lightweight scullers are often the example, in my opinion, of good technical sculling. So
And quite impressive here. I see that on Connor's resume is that he raced the Canada Games men's singles, so that would have been open weight rowing, and he won a bronze medal at the Canada Games in this past summer.
And he's looking very relaxed there. Nice long strokes. Looks really in control, doesn't he? Looks like he's controlling the race from in front and letting the other athletes try and chase him down.
Certainly, when the rate being at the rate it is, he'll have the ability to, like he just did, make a move off of the boat that was pushing onto his. And so you can see he's put a little more power into the stroke there, trying to push that crew that was coming up from second place. That would be
hanging off the oars there, snapping it into the finish. So the feet are fixed to the boat, so they are staying stationary, and then the athletes are sitting on a rolling seat slide. And you can see here that he has decided that the other athlete was just a bit too close to comfort. He knows those red buoys are coming up. In fact, here they come into it right now, and he's going to want a decisive win here as he pushes towards the finish line.
Yes, the sculler from Georgian Bay, though, in second place, has picked up the stroke rate, is definitely at a higher rate of striking, a little more tempo there. Shorter strokes, but definitely getting more in per minute, as opposed to Connor that has slowed his rate down comfortably, I guess, in the lead here.
Absolutely, and a lot of pain here, whether you're feeling in control or not. We see a look out of the boat there from the athlete from Georgian Bay here as he tries to push it up. And the race isn't over until it's over here, and you can certainly see
they
him.
Have great overlap between these two boats.
Yeah, huge change here. So 250, 10 strokes to go. What do we think? Who do you think is going to cross the finish line first?
I think the camera can be deceiving in rowing races. There it is. That's Connor Dodds from Saskatchewan with the first place finish in the B final of the lightweight men's single. Behind, coming in second is James Rourke from Georgian Bay.
And the race isn't over yet, as we still have the third and fourth place athletes, both from Victorian City Rowing Club, coming towards the finish line. Another look over out of the boat. Make sure that they're in the right position, and through the finish line. That was James Jamil, followed by Tristan Chang. You can see that those rowing sculls are only really as wide as the athlete's hips, so they're made out of carbon fiber. They're incredibly light. The rowing is really a game of drag, so what you're trying to do is you're trying to keep the boat out of the water as much as high out of the water as you possibly can. And these athletes in our sport, everything used to be made out of wood, then hollowed wood, and now we have aluminum backstay riggers, which you can see behind the athlete from Brock there. And then the boats themselves are made out of carbon fiber and hollow, so nice and light. And even those oars are made out of carbon fiber. They're actually quite long. I think when you see them in real life, sometimes surprising, and they're about just under 3 meters long. So to put that into perspective, a pole vault is about 5 meters long, so only about 2 meters shorter than that. And then in the sweet boats are even longer. There will be a small delay between this and the next lane as we wait for the athletes to get into place. And I think that we're going to go to commercial here, but when you come back, we're going to bring more exciting action from the 2022 Canadian, feels like that sometimes, Canadian Rowing Championships. Stay with us.
Even elite athletes need support to reach their goals. Pour aller plus loin que ceux et celles avant eux et pour laisser un sport meilleur à ceux et celles qui les suivront. Athletes Can represents members of Canada's senior national teams who compete at multi-sport and world championship events. Nous avons pour mission de parler d'une seule voix puissante en faveur d'un système sportif centré sur l'athlète, where athlete rights are respected, où les préoccupations des athlètes sont entendues et prises en compte, and where athletes influence key decisions made in Canada's sports system. Nous formons des athlètes leaders qui influencent les politiques du sport et inspirent une solide culture sportive. We're a safe and inclusive place to share your perspectives and concerns on the issues you care about. Et ensemble, nous suscitons et réalisons des changements. We were the first organization founded by national team athletes for athletes. Depuis, nous avons toujours été des leaders mondiaux en matière de représentation des athlètes. Join Athletes Can. Vous y êtes chez vous.
Here we go, getting ready. Oh, sorry, sorry. I thought that was the start line of the A final. This is the results of the B final. As you can see, the athlete from Saskatchewan.
And you can see there that was a 2.7 difference between first and second place. Max, tell me about what some of the closest races that you've had. What are we looking like at the international level?
Over the years, we've had some super tight finishes, especially in lightweight rowing. I believe the 2019 Worlds, we finished in 8th or 9th position and just out of qualifying for the Olympics in that year by 1/10 of a second.
So close. And you think about these races, they're 2 kilometers long. So, world's best time for women's single is 7 minutes. Men's 8, the fastest boat is going to go, 5.5 minutes. And then we're winning and losing by hundredths of a second. So 3 seconds may not seem like a lot to the parents and friends and family watching this, but then as these athletes move from the national to the international level, those margins just get smaller and smaller and smaller. And I remember 2019 World Championships in the women's double, I think we came off the podium by like 0.3 seconds, but the next race, the B final, so 6 boats, we're all within 1 second of each other, all 6 boats. Unreal.
So you can see the athletes getting warmed up here. One of the things that you won't see is how rigorous the warm-ups for these races can be. Sometimes upwards of an hour of activity before the start line.
Yes, so for a 6-minute race. So quite often when I was getting ready for a race, your race plan starts about 3 hours out. What are you eating? When are you stretching? What type of warm up on the land are you going to be doing? And then what warm up on water are you going to be doing, so that you're not warming up in the middle of the race. Your body is ready, it's primed. Your fast twitch muscles are ready and primed. And you can see that was Andrew Todd there coming into the start line. He's going to be in lane 1. And why don't you take us through the starting list here?
Yes, so Andrew Todd, actually a former lightweight teammate of mine, racing in lane 1 for North Star Rowing Club. In lane 2, you have Giancarlo Di Pompeo racing for Rowing British Columbia. Lane 3, Stephen Harris racing for Rowing Ontario. Lane 4 is Emerson Crick racing for Row Nova Scotia. Lane 5 is that Christian? Charles Tabet racing for the Club d'Aveyron de Boucherville. And then in lane 6 we have Christian Place racing for the University of British Columbia. Other than Andrew, all the 5 athletes from racing from lanes 2 to 6 are U23, and Andrew is a senior athlete.
And maybe this would be a good opportunity while the athletes are getting in place, is talk about what a delay looks like. So this is not uncommon. I know I've had races delayed for small reasons like, a starting boat being out of place, or reasons like lightning and thunder, and you have to, quite often, you're bringing your boat down to the dock, and then I've had to be turned around and gone back. What type of thoughts go through your head when you have a racing delay, Max?
It's that ability to be adaptable. You have to have a plan. You have to be able to execute on that plan, but sometimes you need to be able to change that plan and to be able to adapt on the fly and stay calm when that happens.
Absolutely. We saw on the screen earlier the boat holders there. So, regattas like this only happen with the amazing volunteer staff that we have. A boat holder is someone who volunteers their time in 5-degree weather to lie on the starting blocks and hold the boats and help them stay straight in the lane. So you can see the athletes backing up into those starting blocks and the boat holders there getting ready to catch them.
one of the great comments we can make here is that obviously you can see as the ripples come across the water, there's a little bit of a crosswind at the start gates, which means that the athletes will, in the singles, will need to be making small adjustments to keep their bow pointed straight down the lane. These athletes are steering themselves using the pressure between their left and right hands, a little bit of difference to make sure they stay straight and can adapt to the changing conditions down the course.
At the international level, you have the benefit of having what we call a boot. So this little thing that raises out of the water and will actually hold the bow in place. Here in Quamichan, we have the athletes are being anchored on one side, and then, as Max rightly said, making small adjustments. So part of, your race prep is to recognize, okay, I'm being blown, there's a crosswind coming, being blown over, so I need to overcorrect while I sit still and wait for the starting gun to go.
We have quite a great field here with some international competition. Athletes who've competed internationally. Andrew, who we saw on the screen earlier, is actually a two-time Paralympian for Team Canada, a Paralympic bronze medalist actually from the Rio 2016 Paralympic Games in the PR3,
yeah, and
4.
Three-time world medalist, 2019, 2018, PR3 men's pair gold, 2015 PR3 mixed four, Cox 4 bronze. I mean, he's got quite a legacy in this. I'm really excited to watch him race, and they are off here. What are you thinking about in those first few strokes, Max?
It's about pushing as much power, as much rate as you can with the technique and skill. You can see the athlete there from, I believe, from Rowe, Ontario. That's Stephen Harris, has pushed his bow out into the lead. Only a small margin, though. The other athletes from British Columbia and Nova Scotia are right there with him.
We won't get an opportunity to see many starts, so let's really enjoy this one. I mean, someone once told me you can't win off a start, but you can lose. So really what you're wanting to do is channel all of those nerves, all that energy that you have into getting the boat away quick, getting it away clean, and there's no better feeling than have that first stroke just feel so good as you push away from the starting blocks.
Yes, and a number of these athletes have been racing the single a fair bit this fall. I know Emerson from the University of British Columbia raced the lightweight single at the National Rowing Championships for the universities last weekend. I believe he finished second in that race. And in the lane 3, we have Stephen Harris, who raced the lightweight single for Team Canada at U23 Worlds this summer and won a bronze medal.
Coming towards the 500-meter mark, so now you've come out at a high stroke rate. You'll see that the athletes are trying to slow their strokes down, still pushing through. There's that red buoy or that yellow buoy I was telling you about, indicating that they are through the first quarter. Great shot there of Andrew Todd as he pushes forward. So these athletes are now going to be shifting into their race rhythm, so they'll find a stroke rate that is good for them as they try and get those blades as far back as they possibly can. The longer that you can take stroke, the farther your boat is going to surge forward.
This is when you're really getting into that rhythm stage of the race. This is where you're trying to settle into a bit of a sustainable rhythm, find your stroke length, find your stroke rate that feels comfortable enough that you can push it for the remaining, what is this now, 1,300 meters of the race.
Yeah, around this moment, I'd always think, oh, it's going to take a full 2K. Your heart rate is up from the start. Your energy is coming. Maybe around now is when you're starting to really feel the burn. But you still know you've got a long ways left to go. And the best thing that you can do is stick to your rate. Think about what your race plan is. So for some people, that's going to be a technical focus, so pressing off the legs or suspending off the arms. For other people, it'll be more of an emotional focus, so digging in deep, believing you can do it, and all the while making some small course adjustments to stay in the middle of the lane.
The 3 boats here in the middle lanes 2, 3, and 4, are really having a great race. It's exciting to see. You have the crew from Nova Scotia. Emerson, I believe, it looks like is in the lead. The crew from Ontario, Stephen Harris, in second, and then the crew from British Columbia, Giancarlo, in third. But tons of overlap between these three crews.
And on the top right there, you can follow along with us on what the times are. So 1,000-meter mark. What does this mean? I mean, anything can happen in the last half of a race. So this is a great indicator that they've gotten themselves. The job as an athlete is to get yourself in a position to be able to push. But I wouldn't be surprised if the field looks completely different in another 500 meters from this.
Absolutely. And I believe, too, you can see there's the crew from lane 6, Christian Place from the University of British Columbia, has made a bit of a push there and has come into those top 3. And so there's 4 boats with overlap here racing in the second 1,000 of this race. That's going to be really exciting, second 1,000 meters, Andrea.
Yes, and we're coming in towards the 500-meter mark here. These athletes use about 86% of their muscles when they're competing. Sorry, what was that?
Sorry, we're in the third 500 meter. This is when the real moves can happen. In the last 500 meters, you'll have these sprints where athletes can push that high stroke rate for a shorter period of time to really get that bow to the line. But it's really the third 500 meters that the physiological demands are revealed, and some athletes make a move. As you can see, the athlete with a lot of experience in lane 4. In lane 3, Stephen Harris. This is the athlete that raced at U23 Worlds, won a bronze medal for Team Canada, has pushed from second into first through the crew from Nova Scotia, Emerson.
Yeah, it's a great, this boat class is a great perfect balance of kind of raw power meets poise here, as athletes are really using all their physical strength but also their technical strength here to keep that boat moving as they place their blades behind them and push forward. You're also making race adjustments at the same time, looking out, making sure that you're staying in contact with the rest of the athletes so that when that time comes for that final push that they're ready to go. And at what point in time in the race would you want to do a big race push? Would that be around now?
Absolutely. Coming to this last 500 meters, you can see the marker there, the big yellow buoy that resembles the 1,500 meter mark. Athletes have crossed into the last 500 meters now. The physiological demands in the body are high, and we've got a real row-down showdown here in this last 500 meters.
Row-down showdown, I love that. Yeah, opportunity is certainly the word of the day here as they get ready for those red buoys. Can't wait, gotta go now. There is something at stake right now, and that is national champion in the men's lightweight single in this very first A final of the national championships.
You can see the crew here in lane 2 from British Columbia looking over to his left, looking at that crew from Ontario, making a bit of a push, trying to get a little more overlap, put the pressure under the crew in first. You never know what can happen in these lightweight finishes.
Absolutely. Deep breath. It's time to go to war here as the athletes charge towards the finish. But first, we've got a quick little peek there of the women's lightweight single sculls. This will be the B final. They're well underway already, but I'm sure shortly we'll be going back to the action here in the men's singles.
There are the red buoys, 250 meters to go. Athletes are pushing their hardest. Stroke rates well into the high 30 strokes per minute. Some athletes probably even at 40 strokes a minute. Look at this Emerson here pushing from the crew from Nova Scotia, Emerson pushing into Stephen Harris from Ontario.
You can hear the crew, everyone on the crowd here cheering on. So exciting. Look at how close that is. Now you absolutely need to empty the tank. Nothing left, no regrets as they charge towards the finish. Who's going to be our first national champion?
Bow ball to bow ball. That is an incredible finish. Exactly what we're looking for here at this National Rowing Championships. Emerson versus Stephen, the crew from Ontario versus Nova Scotia for the pride of national champion. Look at this.
Oh my gosh. This is the racing that we want. Oh.
Wow. Fantastic finish.
Well, if that's an indicator of things to come, then strap in. Max, my legs are going underneath the table here as I'm just absolutely on, that's wild.
As an alumni
crazy.
of the lightweight national team, that made me very proud, seeing an athlete from behind pushing through in the last 500 meters to claim gold. National champion, Emerson Crick from Rowe, Nova Scotia.
What a race. Well, we promised you narrower margins, and the lightweight singles have delivered. We'll stay with them here for a moment.
I'm excited to see that finish time.
I know. I can't wait.
Wonder what that margin was.
We'll wait with bated breath to see the graphic come up on our screens, and then I'm sure we'll be joining the women's singles as well.
So here we are with the lightweight women's B final. This is the crew, Simone Slipper from the rowing with rowing British Columbia, but attending SFU University.
In lane 2, we have Therese Faubert. I apologize in advance for everyone whose name I've butchered, but as someone with a German last name, I've had mine butchered plenty before, so I apologize. Lane 3, Genevieve Olsen from University of Victoria Rowing Club. Lane 4, Julia Mills from North Star Rowing Club. Lane 5, Paige Letham from University of Victoria Rowing Club. And lane 6, Angelina Stevenson from Rowing BC. So tell us a little bit about why you want to be in the middle lanes here.
Well, that's a great question and comment, Andrew. So the middle lanes are the most advantageous because of your ability to see your competitors, to see the field, to feel those crews left and right, and to make those pushes that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, it's a 6-boat race, so although the camera angle makes it seem like they're right neck and neck, it's actually quite a wide course, and later on when we go to a drone shot, you'll get an appreciation for just how wide they are. Perfect, on cue. Our production team is on it, so you can actually see how far across those courses are. So being on an outside lane is can be a disadvantage in that you have to really look out. But it looks like in lane 5, if I'm not mistaken, that's Paige Letham, has almost clear water on the rest of the field.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. The crew in lane 1 there from the rowing British Columbia seems to also have some overlap. But I mean, again, another lightweight race where we've got 5 boats almost with contact across the front of the field. Well, there we have the finish. 0.3, 3/10 of a second separating Emerson from Stephen. Emerson claiming the national title. Stephen will claim the silver, and Giancarlo will. Sorry, that's Christian Place that will take the bronze. Christian actually is an Australian racing our national championships. Yeah.
Oh, he's come around to the Canadian way. Fantastic. Great racing there. And the women from that drone shot, it did look like it was still all to play in the women's B final.
Going back to lane positionings, a lot of these athletes will have raced a semifinal to out of the heats and the time trial to get a positioning in these lanes. Oftentimes the winners of the semifinals are placed in those advantageous lanes 3 and lane 4. Second place in the semi will get lanes 2 and 5, and third place in the semi gets lanes 6 and 1.
And from a .33 difference of the finish of the men's singles to a .33 difference at the 1,000-meter mark, we saw a push there from Simone Slipper of Rowing BC. She's trying to make a move to get ahead. I might have that lane incorrect, but we'll have to take a look here. All right, side by side, so you can see the athletes once again pushing their legs, trying to accelerate the handles to the body as fast as they can while keeping nice and calm. You're trying to keep the boat balanced at the same time.
Looks like we have Genevieve Olsen from the University of Victoria Rowing Club having pushed into the lead with, I believe that is, Paige Letham from the University of Victoria Rowing Club. So 2 teammates that probably trained together at the University of Victoria, raced together in team competition, and are now competing in the B final at nationals.
And there's certainly a situation that Max and I are well familiar with, racing against your teammates. These athletes will have been going head to head with each other throughout the season, but it all matters what happens on lane day. And you can see those buoys turn red as they're charging towards the finish. Who's going to make a move here in the B final?
Yeah, we're looking at the rate of striking here. You can see that crew in lane 1 from British Columbia. So striking a little higher stroke rate than the crew in lane 2.
Chest up, eyes bright, knees down. Time to go as they come towards the finish. The cheers on the field here, and the quack of ducks as they get through the finish line. Who's it going to be?
I believe that's Genevieve Olsen from the University of Victoria Rowing Club, coming through in first in the B final. Paige Letham from the University of Victoria Rowing Club finishing in second, and I couldn't catch who came third there.
We'll wait for the graphic to pop up from us. But some great shots here to be able to watch this race from the comfort of your own home instead of in the cold like these athletes. You can see, wow, shorts, good for them. We're bundled up here, aren't we, Max?
Yeah, it's definitely a little colder in the tent, but these athletes are working hard. And look at this. We have the A final off and running. Look at this. This is, I'm excited to call this race. We have there in the front of the field, we have Jill Moffitt, the, I believe, reigning national champion in the lightweight women's single. Olympian, raced the lightweight women's double at the Tokyo Olympics, and is really a class athlete here in the field.
Absolutely, she is. We've got a lot of former athletes on here, but let me just take you through the lane list here. In lane 1, we have Anna Curry. Lane 2, we have Bridget Kennedy. Lane 3, in a different postal code, it looks like, Jill Moffitt. Lane 4, Carissa Riley. Lane 5, Trish Mara. Lane 6, Sophie Inkpen. And it looks like there's some other pedigree as well in lane 6.
Yes, we have a number of athletes that have competed at the Canada Summer Games. Who have competed at the Canadian University Rowing Championships. Carissa Riley racing in lane 4. Recently just won gold at CU's this past weekend in Ontario. Carissa and Jill actually raced the light women's double at the World Cups this past summer. So close teammates that competed together on the national team and are now racing head-to-head. But geez, look at that. Jill has inflicted her pain on the field. She's doing her best there to push as much power as she can in the front half of this race. I spoke to Jill this morning and she said, take no prisoners. She'll be pushing all the way from start to finish, looking to get as much out of herself as possible.
And she's certainly doing that as she charges towards the finish line. The other athletes, too, passing into the red buoys here, that final 250, pushing towards the finish. And we'll be able to see shortly, oh, pardon me, we are not in the final 250. We will find out in a second here. Either way, what thoughts are going through your head when you have a sizable lead here, Max?
Well, this is who we have here.
It looks like Jill.
I think that's Trish.
Okay.
Here we go. There's Jill Moffitt, the athlete that we were speaking about from lane 3. The crew from Rowe, Ontario, coming into the last 500 meters. What do you see here, Andrea? What are the technical points that you enjoy about Jill's stroke?
Well, I know Jill well enough that I'm not going to give her any constructive feedback because she's a feisty girl. But I think that I love how long she's rowing. I love that she is not taking her foot off the gas at all. That she looks like she's rowing for herself and no one else. Look at that sizable lead. I struggle to remember seeing an A final with this much of a gap. What about you?
No, certainly not in recent memory. This is an impressive showing by Jill. Bridget Kennedy from Maple Bay Rowing Club also doing quite well with Carissa Riley from the Alberta Rowing Association. These two athletes are we believe in second and third on the angle that we can see.
Always hard to tell sometimes, but I really love how the boats are accelerating here.
Seems like across the field we've got athletes all around the same stroke rate, 36, 37 strokes a minute. We can see that from our view at the finish line. Jill is crossing into the last 250 meters. Like I said off the start, she said she was going to go all the way to the finish line today, looking to maybe push a best time for the fall, set a bit of a marker for something that she can hit later on this winter.
And if you listen closely, I'm sure you can hear the cheers from at computer screens across Canada as we watch Jill come towards the finish line here, not leaving anything on the water, her rate of striking increasing, but the question will be who's going to take that silver and bronze position.
Oh, this is fantastic. Jill, well over 40 strokes a minute now. I believe I got her at 39, 40 strokes a minute through the finish line, national champion. Oh, you can tell she's tired. She pushed all the way to the line. You got to love that. That's the spirit of racing. That's exactly what we're looking to see here.
And now we wait for the second and third here. You can see the gritty determination on the faces of the athletes as they come towards the finish line. And it looks like it's Bridget Kennedy second.
Yes, Bridget Kennedy second. And then maybe Trish Mara from the rowing British Columbia coming through the finish line there. There you can see Jill hunched over her oars. I'm sure physiologically tired.
But an
There's the
absolutely
crew, Anna Curry from Alberta Rowing Association and Sophie Inkpin from Royal Nova Scotia coming through in 5th and 6th.
a very mature race there from Jill Moffat. She'll be pleased with that.
I just love how she didn't back down. No lead was big enough for Jill, and she's probably looking to compete against some of the open weight women and their time that will show up later this afternoon.
So the results on their screen are not from the race we just watched. Those are from the B final. And just confirming, we have Olsen followed by Letham followed by Mills for those 1, 2, 3 spots in the B final.
What's coming up next, Andrea?
Shortly after this, we're going to be joining from sculling to sweeping. We're going to go to the men's pair and straight to the action in the A final.
I believe we have the B final coming up next, but we'll have to see who athlete comes up. There's Jill. You can see, can we catch a smile on her face? Maybe a little remark to her crews and teammates. Jill will train with a number of these athletes on the National Training Center. Jill raced this summer in the lightweight women's double at the Senior Worlds. Here we go. This is the B final of the men's pair. We have Julian Weiss and Aiden De La Siga from UBC, Axel Awenko and Brendan Wall from UBC.
And while we look up the rest of them, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what these athletes are probably going through right now. They're looking to row long and strong here. Now, in the same way that a tightrope walker will use a balance beam, that's how athletes in rowing use their oars. We're using them to balance the boat. In sweeping, you only have half of that balance beam with your other athlete going out to the other side of the boat with the other part. So synchronicity is the name of the game in these men's pairs.
So, and you can see the crews in the lead here, lanes 3 and lanes 4. Lane 4 are Adam Kroll and Alex Conan. Both those athletes actually are currently racing with the University of Washington. Athletes from the University of Washington. They won gold in the U23 men's 4 in 2020. So that's 2021. That's 2 summers ago. The athletes in lane 4, Mitchell and Aiden from Royal Ontario, were both racing in the U23 Worlds in the men's 8. So you can see some teammates from our national team going head-to-head here in the pair. A number of these crews too, lanes 1 and 2, are teammates from University of British Columbia. My double partner from the Olympics, Patrick Keane, is rowing with his brother Michael in lane 6 there on the left side of our screens. I want to hopefully get a good shot of Patrick here. Love to see that guy.
And these athletes will have done plenty of work on partnerships, so they will have a race plan well in advance. They'll both be thinking about the same thing, whether technical or emotional, balancing those narrow shells with those long blades as they move in and out of the slide. And you can really see the power that they're driving their knees down with. A couple of athletes with boat overlap there. As an athlete, what you're thinking about here is you're trying to push away, break the elastic between the other boats, and as they come through the 1,000-meter, we can see Kroll and Gonan in first with the brothers Keens only about 2 seconds behind, followed by Hodgkins and Simpson.
Yeah, you can see the crew here on the closest to us. That's Axel and Brennan from the University of British Columbia. I had the pleasure of going out in the coach boat with Coach Pierce, the head coach at UBC. They just had a very successful fall season, winning another national title and winning gold in the men's A. These athletes would have raced in that men's A and won gold. I know they've been training very hard and put this on their calendars early in the season, having a good performance at nationals.
And if we were in the boat with them, you could probably hear the athletes perhaps saying a couple of words to each other. Not a lot of breath to make full sentences, but a little words of encouragement perhaps in bow. So that's the person who is going to be closest to the finish line. Their role is to call the race plan, to call any adjustments, and then typically in stroke, the stroke will set the rhythm of the race, set the rate, and sometimes have steering as well.
I was just going to make that comment. If you can get, once we get an overhead shot, you'll see how difficult it can be to steer a boat when you only have one oar you're controlling. You use your toe, the toe controls a rudder, and the rudder is how you stay straight in the lane.
And we can see their lane floor for just for a second flirting with the buoy line. That's not a race unless you high-five a buoy. But the danger, of course, is that if you hit a buoy, it can set the balance off and you're not in position to push. And push they need to, as we see them coming into the last 250. Yes. How are you reading the race?
Yeah, the crew from Row, Ontario and the crew from UBC pushing into each other, both raced at a high rate of striking, coming in through the last 250 meters. Hopefully we can get a shot of them on the screen. I'm looking at the finish line live. Crews are well into the high 30s in stroke rate, pushing to the finish line. Here we go. This is what we were looking for. This is the crew from Row, Ontario, both athletes that race for Team Canada on the U23 team, coming through to win the B final, and the crew from the University of British Columbia finishing second. Then we have the crew from the University of Washington with the crews from UBC, or Rowan BC finishing 5th and 4th.
And what a battle for 3rd there. A little fist bump, well earned from that combination crew. This can sometimes be one of the harder parts of the races, is just keeping the boat upright after the physical exhaustion that these athletes have put themselves through, really pushing themselves to the limit. But that crew from, was it Row, Ontario?
Row, Ontario.
Yeah, they should be
so 7th place in the country, winning the B final. Hopefully they'll be proud of that. Hopefully we can get back to, you saw quickly there, the start line of the A final of the men's pair. So those would be the crews competing for spots 1 to 6 in the country. A number of our former teammates from our Olympic team in Tokyo, and some new names that have raced on the under-23 team competing here in the A final. We'll go through the crews that'll come up on the screen shortly. We have Will Crothers and Tarek Bean racing for Quebec and Row, Ontario. We have Cody Bailey and Liam Keane racing for Row, Ontario. Jacob Buchek and Cody Stephen. Jack Walkie and his partner from the University of British Columbia, Luke Gadsden and Ryan Clegg from Row, Ontario, and Julian Black and Joel Cullen from Row, British Columbia. So you can see we have the athletes in the lanes 3 and 4 that have pushed into the front of the field off the start, but lots to play for here just in the first 2 minutes of this race. Plenty of overlap from lanes 1 to lane 6.
Yes, and this is where the questions start coming. How deep are you willing to go? Can you maintain this pace? These athletes will have trained this mental fortitude every single day in practice, and this is where it all counts. A final of the national championships. You're going to want to get yourself into a position where you are able to push for one of those medal spots.
You can see the crew here closest to us. That's Tarek Bean and Will Crothers. Will Crothers is a veteran of the men's team, having competed at 3 Olympic Games, London, Rio, and Tokyo. Now rowing with one of the newer members of the team, Tarek. And you can see they're pushing into the front 3 positions.
Yeah, I remember this pain well here as they come through the 500 meter, if I'm not mistaken.
In the lane 3, you have Jacob and Curtis. Both raced in the men's 8 this summer for Team Canada, going head-to-head with the crew from UW. Jack Walkie is a former teammate, trainer with us here at the national team. Those two raced at the 2021 Under-23 Worlds in the men's 4, and it seems like they've pushed into the lead.
Yeah, they're trying to wring every single meter out of those strokes, trying to row nice and long, compressing their bodies into the slide so those knees are coming up as your hips come towards your feet, placing the blade in behind you and then pushing with those strong legs to try and get the boat goes as far as possible. And you can see those puddles behind them, those beautiful dark puddles. They're looking for those to have as much space in between them as possible as they push towards the 1,000-meter.
Don't cut out this this crew in lane 6 from the University of British Columbia. These two athletes raced the CURC's regatta last weekend, winning their second consecutive gold medal. They also raced the U23 men's pair this past summer to a 5th place finish. So there we have the crew from the University, well, rowing British Columbia, but racing from University of Washington, teammates together.
Athletes trading blows here, 1,000-meter, and it's all to play. Those top 3 crews are actually still pretty close together, with Jacob Butzek and Ames only being less than a second behind the leading boat. So the question right now would be, who went out too hard? Who has some strokes still left in the tank? They're looking really, Will Crothers, they're looking really in control as he uses his veteran experience to get him into the last half, the downhill portion of the race.
Yeah, it seems like Jack Walkie and Logan Ulrich from Road British Columbia have pushed into the lead there comfortably with a bit of open water, but the race for second and third is certainly heating up. This is going to determine the pecking order for the fall, those who come out on top. These athletes will have raced the World Rowing Championships a month ago and have only been back at training for a few weeks here, but it's still fun for them to compete and show their best on the national stage.
So what are the thoughts that are going through your head here as you come towards the last third of the race into the red buoys?
Certainly, it's a matter of communicating to your partner when you're going to make those moves. How do you make that push together to make sure you can get as much out of the boat as possible? You can see Curtis Ames and Jacob Butzek there have raised the rate, trying to push off these crews. You can see the crew from British Columbia, Joel and Julian, have pushed into 3rd place there. That's a great showing for those two off of a strong fall of racing.
And here comes the storm, lightning quick blades thundering towards us here. Everyone is taking it all out, but who's going to be the national champion in the men's pair?
It looks like the crew from Row British Columbia, Walkie and Ulrich, have a comfortable lead here. They're pushing those last few strokes to the line. There it is, gold medal, national rowing champions. Jacob and Curtis from Row Ontario finishing 2nd, and Joel and Julian from Row British Columbia in 3rd.
And photo finish there for the last 2 crews coming through.
So there you have it. That's the crew from Row Ontario, Cody Bailey and Liam Keane coming in to round out the field. So on the screen there we have the teammates from Row British Columbia. These two athletes, I believe, raced together 2 summers ago, with Team Canada, and are racing with the University of Washington.
And a trip down memory lane here from that decisive 18-second win in the lightweight women's A final. Jill with her 1st place, followed by Kennedy for silver and Riley for bronze. And maybe now's a good time to talk about what the athletes are wearing. Previously, we had a shot of the back, a Team BC unisuit. So in rowing, we have a tight outfit, spandex outfit called a unisuit. And at this national championships, all of the athletes will be representing their province. So you're only going to see a couple different outfits. We're heading into the women's B final. Really excited about this race. In lane 2, it's 4-boat race. We have Kaylani Marchak and Dorothy Bene from Victoria City Rowing Club. In lane 3, we have a Jessie Lutet, former teammate of mine, and Courtney Crochelle. They're from Alberta Rowing Association. Lane 4 is going to be Nicole Cusack and Abby Spires from University of Victoria. And in lane 5, rounding us out, Ellie Souza and Sally Jones from Rowing BC.
Yeah, you can ignore the lanes 5 and 6 there. Those are just, it's a bit of a typo. Those are 2 of the boats.
And I'm really excited about this race here. So the out of lane 2 there's some great athletes in this field. Kaylani Marchek was actually 19 was pardon me a U23 women's coxed for 4th place. She got bronze in the double for the USA at the U19 Worlds in previous years, and her partner Dorothy Brenes actually had represented Hungary internationally in both the heavyweight and the lightweight categories.
Oh, that's fantastic. Love seeing an athlete make the jump from lightweight to heavyweight rowing. It's something that everyone's going to have to do after the next Olympics, as lightweight rowing will no longer exist on the international level from after the Paris Games, but likely we'll have it exist within Canada's borders as an extreme rowing and competition.
And it looks like lane 3, Alberta there. Hard to tell sometimes from the angle of the camera. It seems to be eking just in front. Jessie Lutet actually just got her CPA, so she's a chartered accountant. And when I talked to her about this race, she said pure and simple, she's here for fun and fitness and competition. But that competition is certainly something she'll bring, because she just won I think she was in the Champs Coxed 4 and the Charles, where they won bronze.
Great race heating up here. You have the crews from Alberta against the crews from British Columbia, lanes 3 and lanes 4 going head to head. Very similar rates of striking. Whenever these are the races that I remember and enjoyed the best, when you have that overlap crews of side to side. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, feeling the boats on side by side there. In lane 5 here, we can see Sousa and Jones. They actually had at the 22 Canada Games a silver in the pair, a gold in the 4, and silver in the 8. So they'll be trying to make up as much space as they possibly can, but it looks like the rest of the field is starting to push away here. As you say, side by side, being able to feel those boats on either side of you, pushing to try and get your bow in front for that important psychological advantage of being able to see the crews that you're beating.
You have the crew from the University of Victoria here in the lead. Really like the way they're reaching around their pins, getting as much length on the front as possible. These athletes would be coached by a good friend of ours, Jane. Jane, the University of Victoria women's team just won national title this past weekend, so I'm sure these athletes competed at that national regatta and are here racing in the pair.
And look at how close it is there at the 1,000 meter. Less than a second separating 3 crews. Max, what's going through your mind here as you're trading blow for blow here?
It's absolutely about staying patient. You got to let the race come to you and do your best to communicate with your partner, make sure you're pushing together, keeping the boat straight, driving the boat with as much run as possible. When the blades are out of the water, you have to manage your movements to make sure that boat continues to run through the water as long as possible.
And they're knocking on the door of opportunity here. I mean, I was always excited when I was at the 1,000 meter mark and right in the middle of it, because that's where you want to be. You want to put yourself in an opportunity. No time for the meek here as they get into the downhill portion of the race. A little look out of the bow there, checking to see as they're pushing away from the lane 3, but it's all still to play for the top 3 here in Quamichan on the B final of the women's doubles.
Yeah, you can see that crew from the University of Victoria having pushed out now, bow to stern to the crews in 2nd and 3rd place. They'll certainly have a bit of confidence having made that push, but now it's a matter of can they hold the push? Can they make the push and push into that pain, but keep the boat moving and fend off any attacks from behind?
And it's time to go to work here. What a beautiful overhead shot.
Oh, wow.
You can really see. This gives you such an appreciation for the art that is happening in this physically demanding sport. You can see the athletes reaching around the pin, so they're going out to their side of the boat there, and they're putting the blades in at the exact same time. That was a beautiful shot there of the athletes.
There's a quick shot of the start of the A final of the women's pairs. It's underway, and we'll get back to that as soon as we can watch the finish here of the B final. Wow, looks like maybe the cameraman was playing tricks on us. These 2 crews are head to head.
Absolutely, and looking up from our finish line view here in Artman Park, we can see them coming towards us, charging towards the last 250. These athletes are going to be looking to increase their rate of striking and try and break the elastic on the other crews, and we can indeed see that there's starting to be open water. What was now formerly less than a second in between the crews is opening up as that crew, Victorian City Rowing Club, charges towards the finish line.
Yeah, you can see them picking up their stroke rate, rowing with quite a nice rhythm. They're catching the boat on the run, which allows them to increase with as much efficiency as possible.
Yeah,
great race for silver though as well.
Yeah, not afraid to use the stroke rate to their advantage. At this point in time of the race, they're looking to have their chest up, eyes bright, knees down, nothing left, and they're looking to make a demanding finish here.
Yeah, final few strokes to the line, pushing through, going as hard as you can until you hear that horn.
That international experience from this combination out of lane 2 paying off as they cross the finish line first, but it is going to be a narrow margin from second, University of Victoria, third, Alberta Rowing Club, and we will wait for Rowing BC combination of Souza and Jones just about to finish. And that was your B final. Great racing again here.
And on the screen there, we have the results of the men's pair. You have Walkie and Ulrich from Rowing BC with the gold medal. 6:30 was their time, 3 seconds back. Jacob Buchek and Curtis Ames with Row Ontario, and Julian Black and Joel Cullen, the U23 crew from Row British Columbia, just 4 seconds back from first.
And while we wait for the official times of the final B, thoughts turn to the final A. Let me take you through the line here because this is a race I am excited to watch. Out of lane 1, we have Avalon Wasney, Sydney Payne, former teammates of mine, and lane 2, also from Row Ontario, Cassidy Dean, Karen Lefsrud, lane 3, Row Ontario, Kirsten Edwards, and Alexis Kronk. Lane 4, Rowing BC, that's going to be Simpsons and Piper Battersby. Lane 5, Alberta Rowing Association, is going to be Olivia McMurray and Kendra Hartley. Lane 6, from Quebec, Jess Sevick and Gabby Smith. Some great crews in this, but first let's just look at the result. Oh no, that's exactly what I just said right there. I'm really excited to watch this. Some fantastic crews in here. Looking at, was that?
Yeah, who do we have in the lead there? That's
what we're looking for. Lane 3 would be Kirsten Edwards and Alexis Kronk. And on our screen in front of us here, lane 2, let's take an overhead look as they come towards the final 500.
It looks like lane 1.
Yeah, lane 1,
Those
so
are
that
your
would be
teammates, Andrea.
Avalon and Sydney. Absolutely, they just came back with a bronze medal in the women's 8 at the World Championships. That is a lethal combination, those two, and I expect that we'll continue to see them in the front of the pack.
We have a number of pairs that raced in that women's 8, correct?
Absolutely. In lane 6, you're going to see Jess Sevick and Gabby Smith. They have come over to the dark side after racing in the women's double in Tokyo. They are now coming over into the sweep pool as well. We have Karen Lefsrud as well as on the national team. And in lane 5, that Alberta combination, Olivia McMurray and Kendra Hartley, actually both previously competitive dancers, then both turned engineers, but they have plenty of international experience as well. Silver in the 2021 at NRC's and second at Canadian Henley in the pair, and just won the Cox 4 at head of the Charles. And coming through the 1,000-meter mark here, you can see Avalon and Wasney's and Sydney Payne continuing to extend their lead, 2.5 seconds over Edwards and Kronks, but Smith and Sevick not to be left out, still in third.
Yeah, there we are. There's a chance to see Avalon and Sid rowing together, a mixed combination from British Columbia and Ontario, but rowing well, really strong through the water. You can see the way that Sid grabs the water off the front end. lots of connection to the boat, really leverages her power through the water, and Avalon's doing a great job of matching up that front end. These two have rowed together for a number of years, actually.
Absolutely, and I agree with you. I can see that the oar is almost bending, that carbon fiber oar is almost bending in the water as they leverage their amazing strength. Look how long that they both row. What a great combination this is, and they look like they're just surging, tapping the boat along. It almost makes it look easy.
Absolutely, it's a joy to watch. You see the way they're picking up the catch. You can see that they haven't pushed on too much on the field. You've got the crews in lanes 3 and 4 that are right there knocking at the door. It's that overlap, when you have the overlap between the stern and the bow, that never allows you to be comfortable. It's not until you get a little bit of open water that you can really relax. And so these crews will be under pressure, it looks like, through the third quarter here. Oh, this is well into, sorry, this is into the last 500 meters.
Absolutely, a masterclass there from Avalon and Sydney, but they're going to have to take a peek out and make sure that they stay in the lead here as the other crews push through. And I'm seeing a surge from the Row BC crew. That's Piper's Battersby Simpson's
McKenna.
there. Thank you,
McKenna.
McKenna Simpson. Thank you. I was so excited for the racing, I've forgotten all names.
Wow, look at this.
Look at that.
Those crews in second and third have pushed into the you can see it's no less than half or just over half a boat of the lead for the crew in lane 1 from the national team. Incredible finish here. These lanes 3 and 4 are pushing the stroke rate up, putting the crew in first under pressure. It's going to be a matter of who can hold off until the finish line comes.
But surging to the finish line here, we see your new national champions.
Wow!
Oh, it is that is too close to call for second and third. But some deep talent here from all the athletes as we watch the rest of the crews come through the finish line.
That was great competition there. It seems like almost a photo finish there for a second and third. There you have your national champions, Avalon and Sid. Both members of our national team, having raced this past summer in the women's 8, now national champions in the women's pair.
These two are absolutely phenomenal athletes. Snacks and Skid the Kid.
Oh, great nicknames. those are from the women's 8.
From the women's 8, absolutely. And they'll be pleased with that. National champions yet again.
Now on the screen we have the men's single B final. I'll take us through the crews. We have Lucas Maroney from Row Ontario in lane 1, Michael Carrick from Manitoba Rowing Association in lane 2, Jocelyn Blanchette from the Quebec Rowing Association in lane 3, Owen Bartel from St. Catharines Rowing Club in lane 4, and Michael Brayton from the Quebec Rowing Association in lane 5.
And we'll take a moment here to look at the gritty race that's unfolding. I'm not going to take any guesses because the camera angle can always be a little bit deceptive, but it looks like the field is starting to stretch out here in this B final. This is a point of the race where the athletes are giving more to get the same. Your legs are sore, your lungs are just absolutely begging for oxygen, and you need to find your center, find your calm, and push every single moment, every single second you can out. Rowers are using about 86% of their muscles as they're competing, so these are incredibly physiologically demanding races.
Yeah, you can see the crews here rowing with settling into their race rhythm. They're well into they're coming up on the 1,000 meter marker. No, they're already, sorry, well into the third 500 meters, I believe. I haven't seen the marker go by yet. But you can see they're into the race now. Try and get a view that could give us a little more accurate description of who's in the lead. Looks like the crew from Row Ontario, Lucas Maroney perhaps is in the lead. Oh, sorry, there we go. We have it on the screen there. Owen Bartel from St. Catharines Rowing Club. It was in the lead at the 1,000 meter mark with Lucas Maroney from Quebec. Sorry. Lucas Maroney from Row Ontario in second.
And we can see the athletes, or saw the athletes, placing their blade, anchoring their blade into the water and pushing the boat past. A quick look towards the start line of the other athletes, those brave athletes, and no t-shirts at all here, a testament to the good warm-up they must have had as Max and I are bundled up at the finish line here in the brisk fall air. But let's go back and see. No, you know what? Instead, let's look at the men's open singles. I believe that you have gone through this yet?
Not yet. This is
Okay.
the A final. This is the Shane Willis in lane 1 from Peterborough Rowing Club, Andrew Hubbard from in lane 2 from Alberta Rowing Association, Gavin Stone in lane 3, Liam Smith from Row British Columbia in lane 4, Michael Chipala from Row Ontario in lane 5, and Matthew Finley in lane 6 from Row Ontario. These are the crews. Ignore the graphic on the screen. I believe these are the crews
From the B final? And while we wait just for some confirmation, yeah, it is. We got confirmation live in our ear here that this is in fact the B final. And who do we have on the screen in front of us?
This is Lucas Maroney from Row Ontario. Lucas has raced for Team Canada at the junior level, racing at the Junior Worlds. He'll have used that international competition to bring it back to our domestic nationals here, and is doing his best to leverage his body weight through the stroke there. Lots of power in this stroke. You can see really laying the power down in this last 250 meters.
You can absolutely see the agony on his face, looking out to his left. He's got to make a decision. He's got to go now because the lane 2 is trying to charge up on him. This is where it all counts. This is what it's for. Does he have it in him as lane 2 charging ahead here?
Yeah, the crew from Manitoba, Michael Carrick, really pushing in there. This is the last few strokes, so it'll be interesting to see can Lucas hold off the charge from Manitoba.
This is where you have to decide. Knees down, chest up, eyes bright, everything waiting for that horn as they come towards the finish. Hold on to your hats. Let's see what happens.
Wow, what a fantastic finish.
Looks
Michael
like the crew
Carrick
from Manitoba.
yeah, with the win to finish 7th in the nation in the men's single.
Fantastic finish there. We've seen some great racing from the B finals and a celebration at the end of a race hard fought. That's a great feeling when you cross the finish line, knowing that you've put down everything you can, that you've had your best race, isn't it, Max?
Absolutely. It's all about giving your best effort. That's why crews can and have that camaraderie after the race finishes, because they know once the race is done, the competition is over, and athletes are quite respectful of each other, usually sharing a congrats from crew to crew. You'll see that in the picture now. I'm pairing up the course, and I can see that the A final in the men's single is underway. I'm really excited to see the crews in lanes 3 and 4, Gavin Stone and Liam Smith. These two duked it out at CURCs in 2021, going head-to-head, and are now in the final of nationals together. Looks like Liam Smith from the University of British Columbia is in the lead, and Gavin from Row Ontario is in second. Fun fact about Liam, he raced the men's single this past weekend at the CURCs and won his second in a row national title in that event. So certainly he's in great form. The athletes that race for the universities in the fall have a fall of racing. They call it 10 weeks of fall fury. It's from the beginning of school through till the CU regatta. Lots of training, lots of racing, great competition, and you can see that Liam's in great shape and leading the field here.
All these athletes here kind of united by emotion. They made it to the A final. This is for many athletes the goal, to get yourself into a position where you can have a shot at the podium, to be one of the best in Canada. And what a beautiful overhead shot here, a little bit of a flying V as we come through the first 500, I believe.
I think they're through 1,000 meters already.
Through the 1,000 meters, even better. All right, downhill. When you're rowing in in front there. He has the advantage of being right in the middle there, being able to do a quick look to your left and right, hold off any attacks that are happening, any charges. And we certainly saw in the race before that those charges can change the field pretty quickly. So he's going to want to make sure that he stays long, calm, in control, and he certainly is doing that as an Emax.
Yeah, absolutely. Liam's had a chance of catching up with the team at University of British Columbia, and Liam and I were chatting about his time in the single. He's certainly been enjoying rowing the single this fall. Fun fact about Liam, he's a dual citizen, Canadian and South African, having grown up in South Africa, but shares the dual citizenship. He's got quite a talent. He stroked the men's 8 this past weekend at the CURCs to a national championship. So the ability to sweep and scull. And it shows that he's in great shape here. He's got about a boat length open lead over Gavin, but Gavin is pushing into his lead, it seems like, a little bit.
Yeah, and letting the rest of the pack kind of chase him as the race unfolds for third place here. Still lots of many meters left in the race here, as now they come through the 1,000 meter there. Oh, pardon me. You know what? I think that must be delayed, because I believe that we can actually see them here.
We can see the crews in the last 500 meters here.
So that you can see there from the 1,000 meter how much there's been a change from less than a second between the leading boats to now well over a boat length. But I think just like that commanding performance we saw from Jill Moffitt in the women's lightweight singles, we're going to see this crew in front want to push to the finish line and make it as commanding as possible.
We also have an exciting race for bronze on our hands here. The crew from Alberta, Andrew Hubbard, looks like he's in third position with the crew from Ontario in lane 5, battling for that bronze medal in the nation. Andrew is another one of those former lightweight rowers that is pushed into the heavyweight category and is doing quite well, having raced at the Under-23 World Championships in the men's double. Andrew rows at Queen's University. See if we can get a shot of the front of the field there. You see the stern of Liam Smith, and there's Gavin Stone in second. Liam is pushing the stroke rate up here, trying to get to that line and claim a national title. Everyone will be feeling the burn here, feeling that lactic acid burn in the legs, the tightness in your chest, the barely getting a breath in as you kind of push the boat to the finish line.
Running out of opportunities here as they come towards the line.
There's
and
a fist bump in the air. Fantastic.
Fist bump in the air, second place, but who's it going to be for bronze?
Andrew Hubbard from Alberta Rowing Association. And then we have the crews from Ontario and Peterborough finishing up in 4th, 5th, and 6th. So there's Liam Smith from Row, British Columbia, member of the University of British Columbia men's rowing team, and now our new national champion for 2022.
National champion, congratulations to him.
I think he spent half the week here out of class and training on the lake, so hopefully it does seem to have paid off missing the classes to make sure you're getting used to that body of water. Fantastic racing.
I'm sure that will be a moment that will live rent-free in his head forever. New national champion. And just to recap the A final of our women's pair, new national champions, Avalon Wasney, Sydney Payne. We have silver with Simpsons and Battersby, and bronze to Edwards and Cronk.
Yeah, that was great. What a great finish that race was.
Mm-hmm. We are heading now into the women's single sculls A final, if I'm not mistaken, or are we going into the B final? We're going into the B final here. All right, let me take you through our lanes here. As we go from Row Ontario, we in lane 1, Crow. In lane 2, we have Scott. Lane 3, we have Jenny Cassens. Lane 4, DePavia from Alberta. Lane 5, Katie Clark from Row BC. Lane 6, Howe from Saskatchewan Rowing. And I'm really excited to watch lane 3 here. That's Jenny Cassens. Usually a lightweight, she has decided to step up into the heavyweight category just for this race. We're really excited to see her do this. Had a tough draw in the race before, so I'm expecting a commanding performance from her as well.
That's the thing. We should mention that these crews raced the semifinals earlier today, which will have decided who gets to race in the A final. These crews will have finished between 4th and 6th in those semifinals, so they're racing the B final. You can see Jenny there has pushed on, I believe, into the lead, what it looks like to me here. And it seems like she's running quite comfortably. Nice rhythm, nice quick catches, blades popping into the water, getting a hold of it and pushing it through.
And it looks like lane 2 there, Row Ontario as well. 3 Row Ontario athletes in this race. That's going to be Madison Scott. She's from the University of Michigan. And at the U19 this year, she was 11th in the women's quad. So now trying, but won gold in the quad at the Canada Games. So she'll be using that international experience to execute a mature race strategy here as she chases down Jenny Cassens. And you can see there the 1,000 meter gives you an idea of where the athletes were in the B final there. Less than a second between the top 2 boats. But as we can see, I think that the race is going to unfold in a very different way here in the last 1,000 meters. And we'll wait for an overhead shot here before we tell you too much more about how the race is unfolding there. But you can see in lane 1, that is going to be Autumn Crow. Autumn Crow, also from the University of Michigan. She got a silver in the U19 at the 2021 NRCs.
So there we have Jenny there on the screen. You can see with about a boat length lead, rowing quite composed. Nice posture there at the front end, snapping those blades in the water. Jenny's got a quick catch, getting hold of the load and pushing her blades through the water and propelling her boat with as much length and power as possible.
Jenny took some time off after her race at the Tokyo Olympics with Jill Moffitt to have surgery, and has only fairly recently this year come back to training, and an absolutely fantastic race. It looks like she's back into fighting form here. And this is a peek ahead at the A final, the main event, women's single. We're going to have Shannon Kennedy in lane 1, Brian in lane 2, Marilee Duvany-Tardif in lane 3, Carling Ziem in lane 4, Grace Vanderbroek lane 5, and Bollinger in lane 6.
It's back to the B final here. These crews are coming up, they're in the last 500 meters, looking for those red buoys that'll signal the last 250 meters. This is the crew that's in lane 1, I believe, from Row Ontario. There's a start. Keep an eye out for Carling Ziemann, Z-Monster, back in the women's single after rowing from Victoria to Alaska. We'll get into that in a second, but she's back now rowing in a racing shell and not in an open ocean double.
And you can see there Jenny still comfortably ahead, but a battle for second and third as we wait for an overhead shot here to see how it stands as they start to charge into the red buoys. The red buoys indicating 250 meters left. And you can see there Jenny increasing her rate of striking as the field has started to close in, but she's not going to give it up easily. This girl will fight for every single stroke as it comes towards the finish. And in fact, we can see here she is charging away, opening up that open water as the rest of the crews close in for second and third position in the B final.
You can see Katie Clark in lane 5 in second place, also increasing her stroke rate, pushing as much power as she can to the finish line. There we have it. First place to Jenny, second place to Katie, and third place to the crew from Alberta Rowing Association. great racing there in the
Great
women's
racing.
B final.
Katie Clark's phenomenal athlete as well. Shares my rowing club of False Creek Rowing Club.
That's where I learned how to row.
You did.
False Creek. With
Katie
Vancouver
also has
College.
a boat named after her there, which is fantastic. She's a phenomenal athlete and well earned for that second place. But here we go to the main event. We're a minute and a half into the A final of the women's singles. So you were telling me about how Carling decided to row all the way to Alaska.
Yeah, she was invited to participate in the Race to Alaska, which is a race where crews, all non-motor assisted, so it's by wind and by physical activity. And Carling and her partner rowed a open ocean double with no wind assist all the way from Victoria to Alaska. It was an incredible event to follow along. Carling says it's the hardest thing she's ever done in her life by far. We kept, every time she would come into service, she'd send a little message out to let everyone know she was still alive. But it's incredible that she's come through that and is now excited to be back racing with the national team. You can see her rowing in her yellow Empacher there.
But there's some phenomenal athletes in this team. Keep your eye out on lane 3. Mary-Lou Duvernay-Tardif. She was part of the Olympic crew as we trained for Tokyo as well. But most recently in 2022, she was 11th in the world. She has 2 World Cup in the women's double under her belt. And in 2019 and 2018 at the U23 Worlds, she was in the quad, 7th and 5th. So she has years of international experience, and I know that she'll be tapping into that here as the legs start to burn, as the chase is on. But look at the field here. Maybe we can go to an overhead shot so we can have an idea of how it's playing out.
You can see the crew in lane 1, that's Shannon Kennedy from Royal Ontario, pushing up near the front of the field. Nice high rate of striking, smooth strokes through the water, giving their best. It seems like we've got a great race in our hands here. No one's really pushed out to too much of a lead. There'll be lots to play for in the second half, as I believe the crews come up on the 1,000-meter mark here, that big yellow buoy coming through our screen now.
Yeah, Shannon Kennedy also has a lot of a world experience there. She was in the single at this year's Worlds. She has a World Cup experience in the women's double, and in 2019 was also in the A final for the women's double as well. So plenty of sculling experience. As we look overhead, it's still all to play. To me, this looks like it still is very close, so keep your eyes peeled for very exciting last 1,000 meters here.
Yeah, the crews in lanes 1 and lane 2 seem to be in first and in second, with Carling in lane 4 there in third place currently, but still not much between these crews. In fact, it seems like it's almost coming to overlap now. There you have Carling Zeman on the screen rowing her yellow Empacher, getting back into the swing of things. I know Carling's been away from competitive racing in these kind of boats for the last few months, but is now back training with the national team. So this is a great opportunity for her to see where she's at relative to her teammates.
And looks like she has some great hang there as she plants her blade behind her, anchoring those blades and then pushing the boat past. Shannon Kennedy now on our screen in front of us in her Philippi, as it looks like she's putting on a bit of a charge. You can see her knees going down, quick look off to her side, checking where she is, knowing that she's running out of meters, and it's all to play here with plenty of overlap as we look for our next national champion.
In Carling Zeman fashion, she's made that second half push that she's very well known for, and pushed into the front of the field here. You can see that her boat is heading towards bow to stern lead over second place.
Yeah, the Z Monster last half is something I've been a victim to many times as she rose through the field in spectacular style in the last 500 meters. So I expect that she'll be looking to do the same here. You can see almost everyone at a similar rate of striking, but again, that overhead view here gives you an appreciation for just how tight those margins are. Carling Zeman starting to take control of the race, pushing away a little bit here, but I think we're going to have an amazing race for bronze and silver here as they surge towards the finish. Shannon Kennedy looking very in control here out of lane 1.
Yeah, these athletes are in the final 500 meters, so you can see it's all to play for second and third place. Plenty of overlap. It's going to be who executes their final few strokes the best that's going to claim second and third. It looks like Carling might have enough to hold off the field and claim I don't know, maybe her 10th national title. She's quite dominant in the women's single.
And lane 2 there, we just saw also Alizé Bryan from Montreal is having a great race here, right in the top of the field. I have a stat on her. Stay tuned. Here we go. She was at the CURC's in 2022 Women's Athlete of the Year and won gold in the women's single. So this is a boat that she knows how to row well.
Look at this.
But look at
race
that.
for silver. Mary Lou from the crew from Quebec. It seems like she's pushing into those crews that are in second and has now pushed into second, it looks like.
Keep an eye on those buoys here. They changed from yellow to red, and we know what that means. Red means dead. Last 250 meters here as athletes are running out of meters. Carling charging ahead here, making sure that she tries to extend that lead, but no one is going to let her go lightly, and there goes Shannon, bringing her rate up, trying to charge ahead. I can't wait to see this finish line, Cam. It is going to be a tight one.
Yeah, I think Carling is. It seems that she's cooling her things off as she has the national title in the bag. But second place, it's going to come down to the finish line. Looks like Mary Lou from Quebec is going to grab second, and Shannon from Rowe, Ontario grabs third. Great racing.
And all those athletes across the finish line in very close order. So well done to all the women. Fantastic. Well done.
It's
and
a tight spread
congratulations.
from first to sixth. That's a great final. There's Carling hunched over her oars, giving a nod to her competitors. That's great racing all around. Definitely put her under pressure, which can be difficult to do. As somebody who trained with Carling for the last 5 years, tons of respect for her ability to go out and pursue the distances that she does in the single. I know rowing to Alaska is one thing, but this she does train incredible distances in the single and is a great athlete.
No argument here. Carling Zeman, national treasure. Well done on your millionth national championship title. And fantastic racing to all of the athletes here. There's been some great tight finishes, and this is exactly what we as athletes hope for rowing Canada. You can just see the sport is just growing by leaps and bounds here, and it just makes me excited for what's going to happen in the summer ahead.
These are some of our pictures from the racing over today. It's been a fantastic day. Thank you very much for joining us to help us crown Canada's national champions in rowing for 2022. I'm Maxwell Latimer with Andrea Prosk. We've had a great day. Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the rowing.
Thanks so much, guys. Well done.